What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the greenhouse. We are out here today planting up some of our lettuce, and I'm really excited about it because our lettuce looks amazing. And so we are going to be planting this up in some containers, and we're going to be talking today all about how to have more success growing lettuce in containers. It's a big question you all ask. You guys want me to talk more about growing in containers in general, but lettuce is one that a lot of gardeners start with because it's such an easy crop to grow. And so I want to talk about how to grow lettuce in containers and really just kind of simplify things down so that if you want to throw a couple plants in a pot, even in winter like this, you could still grow lettuce, whether it be in a greenhouse or even indoors under grow lights. That's where we started these, and they look amazing. Or if you have a cold frame or something like that, lettuce can really tolerate cold weather. And it's just such a fun beginner crop to grow that has endless possibilities with how much you can grow. There's so much variety that you can pick from. It's just a really great crop to grow. And so in today's episode, that's what we're going to be talking all about. So I hope you all enjoy. I'm going to get some of these pots filled up with soil, and let's get planting. So the pots that I'm going to be growing in today are pots that we grew our peppers in throughout the summer. Now, the first thing I'm going to touch on is soil, because that always seems to really trip up a lot of beginning gardeners. You hear a lot of times people say, you got to start completely fresh. If you don't start completely fresh, you're doomed to fail, and your garden's going to be terrible. And a lot of beginning gardeners spend so much more money on soil than they really have to for their garden because they're constantly refreshing your soil. I know I thought that when I was first starting out, I spent probably 3 or 4 times more than I actually had to on soil because I was always refreshing my soil. The great thing is that when you're growing really any crop, but especially lettuce, because it's such a fast turnaround crop, it's not really concerned as much if the soil quality is not perfect, but also the root system on lettuce is really fine and fast growing. So if I was to throw, say, a pepper in this again, might not be the best because the soil is already about halfway up the pot, right? So you can see there's already soil in here. And if you see green around the edges or whatever, that's just algae from the pot staying damp and being exposed to sunlight. Doesn't hurt a thing. Doesn't hurt a thing at all. But the pots are about half full with soil already, and they have the pepper plant still in the bottom. I'm not worried about it one bit because lettuce have really fine roots, and they also don't have very deep roots. So refreshing your soil and having a whole brand new fresh pot of soil just to grow a head of lettuce, only then to turn around and say, well, now I want to grow something else, so I need new soil all over again. You're going to be turning through that soil so fast, and then it's like, where do you put it? So you don't need to do that. Lettuce is really forgiving. You don't have to freshen up your pots completely. I'm just putting a little bit on top to freshen them up because obviously I want to give them a little bit of freshness, but it doesn't have to be a completely new pot of soil. Second thing with soil is it doesn't have to be that deep. As I just said, with growing crops like peppers or tomatoes or potatoes, carrots, they have very deep roots, super deep roots, meaning you want to make sure that this soil, whatever you choose, is really loose, really well draining, and the container you put it in is really deep to accommodate for all that root development. The thing with lettuce is that you could put them in a 6 or 8 inch pot. These pots here are about 12 inches deep. If you had a pot that was half this size, you could still grow lettuce. In fact, our soil bin here is only 8 inches tall, and we could very easily grow lettuce right in this if we wanted to. Lettuce has such a shallow root system that it allows for a wide variety of planting methods, and it doesn't matter how deep the pot is because it's a great crop to start with for just about any size pot. Second thing I love about growing lettuce in containers is I typically don't thin that much. Because I'm growing them predominantly 4-leaf lettuce, I don't need to thin because if they do form a head and the heads kind of cram into each other, they're not going to form very well. So I'm going to be harvesting well before that happens anyways. And what that allows me to do is, in a pot like this is our MIgardener 5-gallon fabric grow pot here. Actually, this is the 3-gallon size. In our 3-gallon size, you'd only get about 1 head of lettuce, maybe 2. There's just not a lot of room here if you plant it right in the center and you get a nice big head of lettuce for you to grow many more than that. But if I'm growing for leaves, what I can do is I can take this. This is our crisp mint lettuce here. Love this. Doesn't taste like mint at all, but it just tolerates anything you throw at it. It is slow to bolt, handles cold weather. It is just a phenomenal one. We could take one cluster of plants. I'm not thinning, mind you. Take another cluster of plants, throw that right there, and then a third cluster of plants. And I'm planting the equivalent of, because I'm not thinning these plants, these are all multi-sown little blocks here for leaves. I'm planting in this single 3-gallon pot, probably 8 or 9 lettuce plants. And they're just going to grow up nice and dense, fill the pot out, and then I can come in here with scissors and I can trim those leaves off in a process called cut and come again, rather than let the entire pot grow up for 2 or 3 months just to get a single head. I can come in here in a month, month and a half, and I can trim those leaves and harvest, letting the plant regrow, so I'm getting multiple harvests as well. It's a great way to grow lettuce, and like I said, it's just a phenomenal way to grow in containers because I don't have to worry, and I can plant way more than I would normally if I'm growing for just heads. So again, up close shot here, you can see we've got all these seedlings. Now, typically, if you were growing them for a head, you'd take these and you'd trim out all these and leave 1 or 2 of the healthiest for them to form a head. But since we're growing for leaves, we're just going to take them, we're going to pop them out. There we go. And since they are in our amazing bootstrap farmer trays, go get them over at MIgardener.com. The roots look amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, just incredible root development, really great. And because we started them in a good quality seed starting mix, the roots just developed like crazy, and they're absolutely beautiful. Oh my gosh, they're just, man, that is amazing. So we're kind of making just a little triangle pattern here. We're putting those in. Now, the type of soil we are planting them in is a really great quality potting mix. It is Pro Mix. That's what we use most of the time in containers. I just love the high porosity. That is how porous it is. It's very sponge-like, so it holds onto water very well. It has a good amount of perlite and vermiculite, which adds to the airiness and the kind of the fluffiness of it. It also has been screened, so there's not a lot of chunks and big material. It allows for roots to really penetrate and develop fast in the soil. And then also the thing I love about the Pro Mix is the fact that it has been pre-amended with things like dolomitic lime, so the pH is very neutral, allowing you to grow just about any crop. Lettuce doesn't like a pH that's really acidic. It likes a pretty neutral pH, whereas if you're growing like a tomato, we would simply adapt the soil to grow the tomato, rather than have soil that grows a tomato really well, but everything else suffers, right? If you try to grow broccoli in a high acid environment, it's going to suffer. Lettuce is going to suffer as well. So this soil is really great and allows us for a wide variety of plants in our containers. The next success tip to getting lettuce successfully growing in containers is not using a heat mat. All of our seedlings here, all of these beautiful seedlings were grown just in regular ambient temperature. Having a heat mat on your lettuce is going to cause them to germinate very quickly, but after that point, it's going to stress them out. You're actually going to get less success when using a heat mat, because while you may have faster germination, the heat, because they're a cold weather crop, ends up stressing them out. And so I would highly advise not using a heat mat. We had germination in less than 5 days. We started getting sprouts in about 3.5 to 4 days on our lettuce indoors. And that's right around 68 degrees. And so these are just phenomenal, no heat mat needed. And there's just certain crops. We've done actually a video, I'd recommend checking it out. It's called, I think, 5 common mistakes when using heat mats, or when to use a heat mat and when not to. We've done quite a few videos actually. Recommend watching that video, because in that video we also highlight why using a heat mat with cold weather crops is not the best. So no heat mat needed, don't worry about it. They're gonna germinate great in anything from about 45 degrees on the low end up to about 65 degrees on the high end. It's a great temperature to grow your lettuce, and they are going to thrive. So now I'm gonna go get some more planted here, and we're gonna talk about fertilizer and watering. So when it comes to fertilizing your lettuce are a leafy green crop, and that means that they are going to need some nitrogen. Now, the great thing with growing lettuce is the fact that they're a pretty fast turnaround crop as well. It's not like a tomato that's growing for 100, 120 days. You're growing it and you're going to be harvesting within about 45 to 50 days. So you don't need all that much nutrients, but the one nutrient you really need to focus on is nitrogen. Nitrogen focuses on leaf development, green growth, and it's going to help that plant to produce more leaves. And since that's really the only thing you're actually harvesting to eat, you want to focus on nitrogen. Now, where is that coming from? Well, the soil itself, the Pro Mix doesn't have any fertilizer added, so we're going to be adding fertilizer. Now, we're going to be adding Trifecta Plus. That's our fertilizer of choice, but you can use any type of fertilizer that you choose. I like to go with an all-purpose fertilizer just out of habit. It's kind of muscle memory for us. We use Trifecta for quite literally everything. It's got a great amount of nitrogen, but it also has phosphorus, potassium, trace minerals, beneficial bacteria and fungi. That's just what we use. But you can use even like a kelp meal. A regular kelp fertilizer is awesome. It's super high in nitrogen. You could use a fish fertilizer. A liquid fish fertilizer is phenomenal. You could also use something like blood meal. Blood meal has about 12% available nitrogen and not a whole lot of phosphorus or potassium. Again, whatever you choose, you're just trying to focus on nitrogen because that's going to equal lots of rapid leaf growth. And the more leaves you have, the more you're going to harvest. Final success tip I can give you for growing lettuce in containers has to do with watering. Now, as a beginning gardener, plants do need water. Okay, you're not wrong there. However, as a beginning gardener, we often say that the fastest way to kill your plants is to kill them with kindness. You may think that these plants need a lot of water, especially because they're leaves. They seem pretty moisture rich. And you'd be right, they are pretty moisture rich, but that does not mean they need to be watered on a consistent and constant basis. We're going to come in here, again, it's wintertime. They're not growing incredibly fast. It's not the summertime when the water is evaporating really quickly. I mean, I can see my breath. It's pretty cold in here. It's about 45 degrees or so in here. And these lettuce, they're not going to be growing incredibly fast, so they're not using a ton of water really fast. They're also not going to be respiring. The leaves, they're not going to be breathing, right? All plants, they breathe. They bring in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. And when they respire, they also, when they breathe out oxygen, they lose water through the bottom of the leaf. It's called the stomata. And when they breathe, the mouth is open and the water vapor leaves, causing them to dehydrate and then needing to bring up more water. Since they're not respiring as much, it's winter time, they're not growing as fast. As we get closer to spring, we're going to be watering more frequently, but the biggest mistake you can make is overwatering. Lettuce are very prone to a couple things. The first thing is root rot, the second thing is leaf mold, and the third thing is crown rot. Root rot affects the roots. When you overwater, bacteria and fungi end up attacking those roots, resulting in really weak, feeble plants. Crown rot is where the actual crown of the lettuce plant, all the leaves form out of the crown, that starts to rot, and that's from water condensing and dropping, and then bacteria and fungi eating out the crown. That's going to cause your the complete death of your lettuce plant. And then there's also things like leaf mold or leaf rot, which is where water condenses on the leaves and the outer leaves start to die and droop. And all things are bad. How can you prevent it? By just watering only when the plants need it. Like I said, in the wintertime, they're not growing that much. The water is evaporating a whole lot slower. We're probably only watering these pots here, these 3-gallon pots, and the soil type that we have, because it holds onto water pretty well. We're probably only watering these maybe about once a week. Once a week. If they're showing signs they need more water, they're looking a little dry, they're feeling a little bit light, I might water twice a week. But I'm not coming in every single day and watering these. And I'm really making sure that I'm only watering as much as I need to. And with that, lettuce is a really simple crop to grow in containers. As I said, it's a great crop for beginners. And it's something that I would highly encourage you to try adding to your container garden if at all possible. Just because, man, I'll tell you what, I mean, you can grow a tomato in a pot. You can grow a pepper in a pot. You can grow carrots in a pot, absolutely. But nothing quite yields like lettuce in containers. We can grow in a single 3-gallon pot. We can easily grow 2 to 4 pounds of lettuce in a single succession. And because it's such a fast turnaround crop, we're growing in a given year in a single pot upwards of 9 to 12 pounds of lettuce. It's incredible. So I hope you guys will give it a shot. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to check out MIgardener.com for your lettuce seeds and any other seed starting supplies you may need. And as always, grow bigger. Take care. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider clicking this one. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free, and we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We also have vegetable seeds, fertilizer, or tools. If you need any of those, consider visiting MIgardener.com. Links will be in the description box below. We've got you covered. And as always, we'll see you all in the garden. Take care. Bye.